Hey everyone, got a spearfishing video here from September the 19th, 2024. This is us leaving Port Aransas here. We are already outside the jetties. That's the moon up there guiding our way. We're full on heading out in the dark here, kind of get a jump on the run. We're headed out to Big Red. That's one of the Texas Park and Wildlife Department's artificial reef sites, also known as MI-703A. It was a rig jacket reefed in place. It's about a 35-mile run, so it takes us about an hour to get out there. Seas were pretty calm. We're running full speed here, about 6 to 15 mile per hour winds out of the southeast. Seas were about 2 to 4. Kind of a confused sea. The wind and the current were at odds. That caused us some issues with mooring, and we end up with the stern into the wind and the anchor pointing downwind. It was very, very weird, not the safest situation, but seas were calm enough we were able to do it. So we've gotten here, we've already gotten tied. Monty has already been down and secured the hook onto the rig so that it's not going to come off. He has finished his dive, come up. Now I'm gearing up to start mine. There is a pretty strong current on the surface. I reached over the boat here on my left and I'm grabbing a line, and I'm going to have that in my hand before I even roll over. As soon as I hit the water, that current's already trying to take me away. All right, so he's going to hand me my gun here. You should always have a clip on your spear gun, guys. Right off the bat, I'm going to take that thing, clip it off. That way I can use both my hands. You're going to end up dropping that gun one of these days if you don't put some kind of clip on it. You really should be doing your traveling with both hands until you get down close to the rig. So it's very, very green on the surface here. Can't see but about 15 feet. We were very skeptical about even whether we wanted to even try to dive here. But we've both been around long enough to know a lot of times you can get below this stuff. You can already see in the video the green stuff's going away, and I'm already getting into blue water here, and I'm barely at 15-20 feet. Now it's blue. Viz still isn't a whole lot better yet. See that green on the surface there? You can start to see the rig come into focus a little bit in the distance here. The deeper I get, the better the viz gets. So it's still a little bit cloudy. I'm out of the green water, but it's getting better with every foot I descend here. Gauge says I'm at 50. This structure where it's hooked on here is at 60 foot depth. The bottom is about 130. It's 128. I'm kind of rounding here, but about 130 to the bottom. So about halfway to the bottom once I'm on top of the rig here. Scanning around right off the bat, I don't really see a whole lot. I don't feel super excited so far about this dive. Not a whole lot going on. I barely even see any barracuda. Saw one little cuda there. Wondering where everything is at. I was expecting to see lots of gray snapper here. I've dived this rig quite a few times. I've got a few videos of me spearing this rig, and there's usually quite a few fish on top of it. So some random stuff out there, some couple of cuda, but I'm going to go ahead and get the gun loaded up anyway and start getting ready to head down deeper where there's probably going to be more fish. Red snapper is closed. We're not targeting red snapper. That closed about a week ago. Amberjack's open, but we don't see any amberjack on this dive. So I'm loading band 3, and it just popped in my hand. I just broke that band. Haven't even got to pull the trigger yet, and I've already broke a band on the gun. I do have a spare band. It's in the boat. I'm not going to turn around and go back to put the third band on. I'm just going to hunt this dive with 2 bands. In between this dive and dive 2, I did put the spare band, a third band, back on the gun. So I'm going to do this whole dive hunting with 2 bands. Effective enough. Pretty much just shooting gray snapper on this dive. Again, red snapper's closed. Amberjack's open. There aren't really any amberjack on this dive or on this structure while we dived in here. Now I'm coming near this junction here. There's a little bit more pipe to my right. I'm starting to see some gray snapper here. There's a few little grays coming over the pipe. That looks like a good eater right there. Honestly, I'm kind of in a rush, and I just kind of point the gun out there. He swims toward it, pull that trigger. I really don't know what happened there. I don't know if that was a ghost fish. He just kind of juked it. He made a pretty hard turn right as I pulled that trigger. And that first shot, I already lost one band. Pulled the trigger on the first gray snapper, and it was a miss. So dive's not starting out great. It does get better. Get this loaded back up here. Flip my bands back. Put the back end of my shaft back in there. Slide that down. Get that seated. Put my safety on. And start loading my bands. Now, while I'm doing this, I'm also scanning around. There's a little gag grouper to my right there. I just kind of spotted. Little gag I'm pointing at. Little bitty black guy. Real dark. Kind of pointed nose on him. He's way too small to shoot. 24 is the minimum size on those guys. 24-inch total length, bag of 2. They're in a 4 aggregate with some other groupers. But he's way too small. Pretty cool to see him, though. I saw several of those on this dive. Again, there's some gray snapper kind of moving around. They're decent size. Atlantic spadefish down here to the right. Of course, they're always going to be around. It's almost pointless to even call them out. All right, so a couple more grays coming up here. As soon as I get reloaded, going to give me a second chance. I'll take it. Kind of took my time with that shot. See all the air come out. That's from his air bladder. So I know I got a good shot on that guy. Now he went right over the pipe and went down. You can see the cable on my guns kind of rubbing up against the pipe here, and it's starting to knock a lot of that silt loose. It's getting a little bit cloudy. I'm not too concerned with it. I'm in a big open body of water. It will move off pretty quickly, but kind of fighting with this guy a little bit. He's trying to stay on the underside there. Kind of cable's getting caught in the oysters a little bit, but get him up. Going to move over and get on top of this pipe, try to straddle it. My stringer, my hardwire stringer, kind of getting hung up in the oysters here. That's pretty frustrating while I got the fish going bananas in the other hand. But get all that straightened out, kind of get up on top of the pipe here and kind of sit on top of it. I'm going to pin him down, get my fingers up inside his gill plate and grab all his gill rakers in my fist. He ain't going anywhere. I'm going to take out my kill knife here, right behind those eyeballs, kind of just off to the side of the center line and go into that brain case, twist that blade, and he's dead. So I'm going to put my knife away. Water's pretty cloudy now for me, kind of kicking around, stirring, and this fish fighting in my hands here. But get my stringer, going to get it open. I still have the shaft in the fish, but I'm going to go ahead and get that fish poked with the stringer, kind of just jab that through both of his eyeballs. I'm going to take the other end of it, clip it to my BC. He's definitely dead. He's not taking me anywhere. Now that he's secure, I'm going to go ahead and remove the tip from the fish. Now the fish is hanging on the stringer and my gun is free. So get the gun loaded back up here. Kind of go ahead from here on out on all my reloads. We'll just kind of breeze through this at four times speed here. I don't think y'all want to watch me reload 100 times, right? So got that reloaded, getting the tip set. See that gag grouper hanging out. See that barracuda up to the right. Bottom right there's a little Spanish hogfish. That yellow guy buzzing around. It's a little Spanish hogfish. Those are very common on the rigs out here. Gray snapper everywhere. Not everywhere, but pretty common. Most of the fish I'm seeing are gray snapper. I'm seeing plenty enough to keep shooting at them pretty consistently. That dark fish right there was a Bermuda chub to the right. There's a queen angelfish. There's a couple of queen angels here. Pretty good little close-up of these guys. See all that fuzzy, hairy looking stuff on the rig here? That white plant looking stuff. Those are hydroids. We'll talk more about those later. Great triggerfish down there on the structure, kind of following me. He's going the same direction I am. You're going to see him shoot out the end of the pipe here in a second, right there. He's kind of following me around. He knows what I'm doing down here. There he is. Little gray trigger. He's hoping to get some scraps off of me. Atlantic spadefish. Here's some of that the catwalks I was talking about. Of course, they're laid over on their side. This would have been the top, but this is pointing off to the left, would be the top of the structure here. So at this far corner, a little bit in the distance here, I see a couple of pretty good grays. Let's see how close I can get on these guys. See if I can't get a shot before I spook them here. Just got in the water, so they're not very spooky yet. This guy makes a mistake of doubling back to come in and kind of curious, wanted to get a second look at me. Again, another snapper juked my shaft. These guys are pretty fast. As big as they are, they're pretty quick, and they're pretty good at dodging that shaft after I've pulled the trigger. Right, so he full on juked that shaft on me. That was miss number 2. So I've shot at 3, and I've only strung 1. So get the gun loaded back up here. As I'm getting the gun ready, here in the distance at this junction, there's an open pipe. I see a gray snapper, pretty good one, going into that pipe as I approach. I know he's going to go fully in there, so I want to get him before he's all the way in, because I know he's going. I know I'm going to probably hit that pipe, though. So I kind of let him have it here. I did hit the snapper, but it went right through him. And being the metal, you see the tip of my shaft here after I come out of the water. Pretty much I do the rest of this hunt with that tip, just pretty flat. But it's got enough punch, it goes through the fish just fine. So as I get up close here, I think he's in the pipe. As I go to pull, I realize he's not in the pipe, he's under the pipe. He's like between this pipe and the other pipe here. Of course, he's going bananas on me. He's stirring it up really bad. That's not helping me any. Now he's kind of wedged himself in there. I'm kind of looking up because I'm reaching under this pipe, and my face is basically right up against this pipe as I'm reaching underneath, trying to get him repositioned. I turned him around and face outward and then kind of pulled him out. So got him out of there now. Kind of tore him up a little bit, but retained him. That's the important part. Go ahead and finish him off so he's not going to give me a hard time anymore. Of course, that gray triggerfish is coming in. He's ready for his afternoon snack. I'd rather keep the triggers away. I wouldn't want to accidentally get nipped. So again, going to go ahead and get my shaft, put back in my gun here, get everything loaded back up, and get the gun ready to go again. Again, these are all grays you see kind of swimming around here. That's a red snapper there. No, that's a gray, excuse me. That is not a red, that is a gray. You can identify these grays. They have a really dark eye. The eyeball looks almost black. So I hit this guy and full on stoned him. I went right through the brain case, and he is completely dead. Now these grays, again, the eye is really dark on them. The red snapper have more of a hump on their back, and they don't have a really, really dark eye, and they don't have any darkness in the tail like these grays do. So I shot this guy. Again, I'm going to sit on the rig here and deal with this guy. Now this rig is covered in those hydroids. And I'm wearing a wetsuit that I bought used, and it was cut, and the ankles are cut short, and I have a gap between the bottom of my wetsuit and my booties. You see me grabbing at my ankles, some fire coral, or these, what I'm pointing out here, those are hydroids, stung the crap out of me. It got me pretty good. It's been a couple of days now, and I still have some pretty red marks around my ankle. I'll try to include that in the video here. So here is my calf the day after I got stung, and this goes all the way around the back and onto the other side of my leg. I'm willing to bet it was fire coral. So I'm at 74 feet here. I can see the bottom down there. Those pipes you can see kind of running to the corners. Those are laying almost right on the bottom. But we'll get there. That'll come later in the video here. A couple of big look downs there. I kind of got excited. I was hoping maybe those were African pompano, but just a couple of big look downs. Again, I'm scanning. That's the bottom. This structure you see, this dense structure I'm coming up on, I'm getting really close to the bottom here. I'm already below 100 feet. There's a gray snapper. Dark eye gives him away. Slight gradual slope on the back. I'm going to go ahead and lead him out. Let him swim to the shaft, pull that trigger, and I've got gray snapper number 4. Right? All these fish you see moving around in the structure, these are all gray snapper. Of course, while I'm letting this guy kind of flip around on the end of that shaft momentarily, I'm kind of scanning around. I'm looking for sharks, or see if barracuda are moving in on me, anything like that. I don't want to leave this fish out on the end of the stringer kind of flopping around. If I don't pull him to me and claim that fish, another predator will. A barracuda will come in and take him off that shaft, or a shark will. Once I get him in my hands, the barracudas and sharks generally won't try to come take him from me. Right, so I took him. I was down kind of deep, so after I shot him, I'm going up all the way up to 60. Sit on the pipe at 60 where I don't see any hydroids, and get him killed, get him strung. I'm going to get my gun loaded back up again. Once the gun's loaded back up, then I am going to head back down near the bottom where all those grays are kind of hanging out now. Because now that I've shot a couple, they're starting to get a little bit spooked. They've kind of mostly gone down near the bottom, but they're limited to the bottom. They can't really go anywhere else once they reach the bottom here. So I've got the gun ready to go again. Already starting to scan, starting my descent again. Again, there's spadefish everywhere. Grays, these are mostly grays we're seeing. There's some reds every once in a while. These are 3 grays. These are some pretty good grays right here. That one trailing in the back, looks like he's not turning away just yet, so I'll go ahead and give him the shaft. There's gray snapper number 5. All of the grays I saw on this dive were pretty nice size. I'd say nothing under 5 pounds. Everything had some pretty good size to it for a gray snapper. Did not see any small grays for the most part moving around. This guy went 27 inches and 9 pounds. For a gray snapper, that's a very respectable fish. That would be a respectable red snapper. Right? So again, you saw those gray triggerfish try to move in on me. Got all these fish hanging on the stringer here now. I'm making this quick. I'm shooting these fish in pretty rapid succession. I'm reloading, shooting, reloading, shooting, reloading, trying to get them strung. I don't want to linger down here carrying this stringer full of fish. I'm a swimming meat market down here. But got him on, got that shaft cut out of him. I kind of barely had him retained there. But get the gun loaded back up, and I'm going to do the same thing again. Worked the last couple times. Going to go ahead and start descending here. See if I can't come down on top of some more grays and surprise them. You know, I'm already scanning. I'm looking in this corner. The grays are kind of down inside that structure quite a bit. There are some red snapper down here as well. It's hard to tell in the video the difference between them. The red snapper are going to be kind of the bigger ones. They're going to have a higher hump on their back. But they are kind of sporadic. They were not in a really dense school or anything down here. So that's the bottom. You can actually see the bottom there. It looks like it might just be cloudy. That's actually the sand on bottom. I'm literally about 10 feet from the very bottom. Looking through, out here you can see those are some red snapper out there on the outside, a little bit further out there. Of course, spades are just going to buzz around. Grays moving around inside the structure here. I'm pretty deep. I'm a little over 100. I don't want to shoot any of these fish inside of any of the structure part where they're going to immediately just tangle my shaft up, because then I got to sit there and try to dig it out. Looking for a good one. Kind of want to shoot one somewhere out in the open here. So this guy looks like he's volunteering. He's kind of right out in the open here. I should be able to pop him pretty easy. Went through him. You see the shaft hanging out the other side of that fish. It's weighing him down. He goes over that pipe, and I'm not sure what happened here. Pull my shaft back up, and there's no more fish on it. The tip is still on. Did not deploy, which is unusual. And he came off without deploying the tip. Weird. I don't know. That was a red snapper there. A couple of red snappers see come in, look, and turn around and swim back out. All these snapper were 30 plus inches. I caught a couple on pole and line from the boat, measured them, and they were every bit of 30 inches. Some really, really nice snapper down here, or red snapper, I should say. But again, red snapper's closed, so we're kind of restricted to the grays. This is pretty good. Honestly, this is probably the clearest I have ever seen the bottom on a rig outside of state waters. Even in state waters, it's a very, very rare thing to see. A lot of these rigs are honestly in just too deep of water to really even get that deep. But this is a pretty rare, this is a pretty memorable dive, because this does not happen very often. I can see the bottom. I can see every fish down here inside the rig. There's just really nowhere for them to hide. I can see them all. Again, lots of big snapper. Scanning around here, looking, hoping maybe something's gonna, gray snapper, something like that may come to me. Red snappers coming in looking. Grays are down in the structure. They're getting a little bit spooked now. I've already shot a pretty good handful of them. Just looking for some freebies before I start my ascent here. My bottom time's getting pretty short. Again, some pretty good red snappers swimming around down here. But time's getting a little low. I think I'm down to 3 minutes of bottom time remaining. Time to ascend, right? Running out of time here. I gotta go. This is going to be my final ascent from the bottom on this dive. I'm going to start heading up here. Again, we'll kind of skip through this a little bit. Heading up shallower here. Now, on this rig, there was not a whole lot up shallow at the 60-foot mark where we're tied off. I would normally go shallow. My air would last a little bit longer up there. I would probably gain some bottom time. I would normally do a little bit of hunting up there for grays and such. There are not any fish up here at the 60-foot mark. So once I'm up here, I'm on the horizontal pipe. I'm basically just beeline straight for the line and start heading back up toward the boat here. There's two lines. One line is, again, securing that hook to the rig. A little odd to have two lines in the water, but it works, right? So you can see when I look up, it's very, very green. Right here, I'm at 20 foot, starting my 3-minute safety stop. Take a moment, kind of appreciate my catch here. That's a pretty good stringer of grays for a single dive. That kind of made my day. I sure wasn't complaining about it. So, surface interval. Here's 3 water spouts. The one in the middle extends pretty far down. The 2 on either side were trying to form. In between dive 1 and dive 2, those water spouts were forming out here. I took that picture with my cell phone. Luckily, they kind of fell apart pretty quickly, but it wasn't very fun to see 35 miles offshore, see 3 water spouts coming down, right? So, skipping right into dive 2 here, I'm not going to do the full dive like I did on dive 1. I'm just going to do some highlights here. So, got the water loaded up right off the bat. This is an 80 to 100 pound cobia. This is a big boy. That anode behind him is like 6 feet long. Right above him, that anode hanging on that pipe is like a 6. I'm not sure exactly how long they are, but it's every bit of 6 foot. That is a huge, huge fish. Probably full of parasites and worms. He would make for good pictures. I don't know that he would make great eating, but pretty cool to see. Honestly, I thought he was a big shark when I first saw him for the first second or two, which is pretty common with cobia. So jump cut to moving down near the bottom here. This second dive, the water did start getting a little cloudier. You can see that already. I'm right above the bottom, and you can't see the bottom as clearly as I saw it on dive 1. It is definitely starting to kind of stir up a little bit down here, and it's good enough that I can still get down here and move around and hunt. There's a big snapper there. I can still move around and hunt, but it's definitely getting worse by the minute here. Another red snapper. Again, you can tell those red snapper, they have a big hump on their back, whereas those grays don't have such a pronounced hump. So looking around in the murk, don't see much. Couple of sheep's head here. There were quite a few sheep's head on this rig. Here is a spot fin butterfly, pretty big one, pretty cool. Pretty cool to see those guys. I see those at the jetties all the time. I'm out here shooting gray snapper. I don't want to waste my time shooting sheep's head. Because what will happen is as soon as I shoot a sheep's head, a gray snapper will come swimming up to me. Right? So this guy's coming up. This is a gray here. I'm trying to get a shot on him, but I'm top down. It's not the best, angle to be shooting at, but he does a little juke on me, and there's miss number 3. All right, so didn't retain that guy. Again, drop it back down near the bottom here. You see this big shadow on the bottom I'm pointing at? That's that cobia. He's just swimming right on the bottom there, coming my direction. I don't know that he even knows I'm there. Pretty cool to see him. Again, very, very large fish. Very, very large fish. So again, scanning around. Honestly, at this point, I'm kind of just digging, checking out the bottom, and just kind of looking around. I'm really kind of looking for a grouper. I'm hoping to see a grouper sitting around down here in some of the structure, like right on the bottom somewhere. Unfortunately, I don't see it. It's still cool to just be this close to the bottom and actually see the bottom itself. I mean, that's the bottom right there. Crazy. That does not happen out here very often. Again, spades everywhere. Red snapper coming in because they know they're not on the menu. It's about 128 feet here. My max depth was, I believe, 122. So I'm just like 5 feet off the bottom. I'm just above the bottom here. Grays aren't really approaching me like they were earlier. They're keeping their distance a little bit more now. Another big red snapper. Another big red snapper. Again, they're kind of sporadic. There's, maybe a dozen or so kind of spread out, but every one of those snapper are 30 plus. But really cool to see that cobia. There he is again. You see me pointing at him, big shadow. He kind of just swam around just above the bottom there for a while. After this, he kind of swam out, and I'm saying C for cobia. Didn't see him after that. He just swam away, didn't see him again anymore. So coming up here, do a little bit of close-up. This is what I think might have stung me. These are hydroids, this white feathery looking stuff. Looks like a plant. It's actually an animal. It will sting the crap out of you. It's usually not too bad, though. It's like nettle in your yard where it stings and it itches, but then, 10 minutes later you're fine. I have some lasting effects, which makes me think it's probably not these hydroids. It was probably more likely some fire coral that got me. So there's a couple of spot fin butterflies again. Pretty big out here on the rig. You see these are the jetties are like an inch or two. These are like 6 inches long. These are some pretty big spot fin butterflies. Beautiful fish to look at, though. So here I'm kind of nearing the end of the dive. Here is a tricolor damsel. He's yellow, white, and black. He'll turn sideways. You'll kind of see his colors a little bit here. They kind of change colors as they grow. Pretty cool to see them. They're very common on the rig down here. You can see his full colors here. So I'm just going to kind of buzz the top of the rig here. Again, I'm getting near the end of the video. I'm just going to do some close-up of some of the small stuff here. I'm kind of done spearfishing at this point. There was a queen angel that we just passed. There's a barracuda. Again, a lot of growth on the rig. There's barnacles. There's hydroids. There's all kinds of stuff growing on this thing. Queen angel, Spanish hogfish is the yellow one there. There's a blue tang to the left. Coming into this corner, there's a whole bunch of fish kind of hiding down inside this crevice here. All those little fish up above are black chromis. There's a sheep's head. Those are all black chromis, all those little bitty black dots. There's sheep's head down here. There's a queen angel. There's a strawberry grouper just above the queen angel. I see these guys regularly. Most people confuse these with rock hinds. There's also a rock hind down there underneath this strawberry grouper. But this is an actual strawberry grouper. Notice he's pretty flatly colored with some dark colored spots all over him, whereas rock hinds have some white blotches on them, some black blotches on them. They also have spots, but the spots are red and not black. And they do look a little bit different, but a lot of people will call rock hinds strawberry grouper. Again, I think that's just one of those common names. Everybody just likes to call them strawberry grouper. But again, there's a couple of grays hanging out. Strawberry grouper right here. Get a pretty good close-up of him there. Those grays are a little too small for me to really bother shooting with. So into that, I'm up at the safety stop now. That's going to kind of end the video. That was a pretty fun dive, pretty memorable dive. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you guys on the next one.